I find that joy for me is not so much an emotion as it is having built habits that help support little incremental bits of joy throughout my day, throughout my life. It's a bad habit. It's a habit that will not give you joy in the long term. It's just delaying the stuff that you know you have to face.
What I found is that, of course, if we make room for all our feels, then it actually enlarges our capacity for joy.
Jeff, what helps you find that resilience when the joy isn't there to help it out?
Yeah, I'm thinking at two levels. So first off, and I want to come back to this other point, which is often things are thrown at us and we can't control them. And I think for me, that's always been the most frustrating thing. So certainly COVID was one of those, and Tim mentioned reinvention, and thank you for the kind words there, Tim. Certainly I try to figure out what does this mean for me? What's coming next? And so I rack my brain literally for a month or two trying to figure out what is the next chapter of my life. How am I going to survive in this world? So that begat a shift over to how do we do remote? Now we're seeing all of us being faced with, hey, maybe you don't have a job in a few years if AI takes over everything. So same kinds of things. So for me, it's been a little longer pondering, but to kind of answer your question a little more directly, I find that joy for me is not so much an emotion as it is having built habits that help support little incremental bits of joy throughout my day, throughout my life. So I mentioned the guitar. I mean, if I get frustrated, I'm sitting in a meeting and it's like, oh God, this is so tedious. I'll pick the guitar up and it'll just relax me. I'll toss my hands at a video game for 5 seconds, whatever it takes to just have moments where it's like I can kind of break from what's frustrating me, what's right in front of me now that I having a little struggle with. Obviously, you can't do that live, so I really appreciate being remote for a lot of things nowadays. But yeah, it is building these habits throughout the day, and I'll kind of cap it off with, I've been told, hey, depression runs in the family, Jeff. So I kind of long time ago said I'll never be that person who is depressed. But honestly, I suspect you can't always control that either. It's not all psychological. There's physiological issues going on. But one thing I was told, just as a simple, stupid tactic, I was told that, if you're not wanting to get up in the morning, you're probably depressed, right? So if you don't want to get up and face the challenges of the day. So I just kind of said, okay, one of my little stupid habits that I have when I wake up is jump out of bed and go race and run down the steps for the day, take the dog out, which wakes me the heck up. And it's just like, I know I've got to face the day regardless. If I start accepting that, hey, maybe I can get away with sleeping in for another 20 minutes or whatever. I used to be one of those who would set the alarm clock like 20 minutes forward after it went off, and then I'll get up then. And then I just decided it's a bad habit. It's a habit that will not give you joy in the long term. It's just delaying the stuff that you know you have to face and then you know you have to have resilience for. So, a bunch of rambling thoughts, but yeah, thanks.
Thank you. Were you raising your hand or acknowledging, Portia?
Yeah, yeah, I'd like to share.
Yeah.
Sort of riffing off what Jeff said as well. What I found is that, of course, if we make room for all our feels, then it actually enlarges our capacity for joy. So, for example, as I listened to Jeff share his life hacks, one of the things he's done is actually remembered, as an RE hyphen, remembered that perhaps depression is part of all of our internal systems. And it's actually quite a useful alarm bell of sorts, right? Or a thermometer. And he's made room for it. And by accommodating it, he's developed this hack that actually keeps it at bay, I guess, like a hungry wolf. You make sure you feed it regular and then it won't gnaw at your ankles. So that's brilliant. And I wanted to just respond to Tim's sort of question challenge of who do we get to become? And for me, again, it's really interesting. Like this question of like who's your hero and all this. And I've always found it challenging to answer. And for me, it's really about who do we get to become again? So, I turned 50 a couple of months ago, and I think I was making this return journey. It's like turning a huge ship around a couple of years before that. And I don't know if this resonates with you all and your listeners. Um, But I find that now I'm reconnecting with folks like Rod Johnson, of Spring Source fame. And, he hired me for my second techie job, and I learned programming from him. I helped with the Spring framework before it was even a thing. And I remember the story for me here in the lesson is to work with great people. It's either capitals great or lowercase, it doesn't matter. And I met all of them at one of these great Java conferences. It's like Jürgen Höller, Adrian Collier, Rob Harrop, all of them. We're just there kind of drinking tea or whatever and chatting. And this penny drops in my mind. And I was like, just a clarifying question. You have never met face to face, and yet you don't argue about where you put your semicolon or how many white spaces you have before the end of line symbol and all of this. And they looked at me slowly. And this is the wonderful thing with hanging out with great people, right? They said, no. And I said, well, why don't you disagree? Because, the Pearl community and everybody else argues about these things, and it's hard to form a community and a framework or whatever they want to produce. And they said, oh, we all read Rod's book and we all agreed. And then someone else piped up and they said, well, Jürgen eyeballs every single line of code that gets checked in. So about a month ago, I caught up with Rod because he was in London. What a wonderful, again, it was like this kind of just like life folding in half again as we make the return journey. And I was sharing the story with him and he goes, that Jürgen still continues to eyeball every single line of code. And I was like, that's great, because I could see it brought Jürgen so much joy. And in the sense of true play is safe play, fair play, being good sport. And I think secretly everyone's quite delighted that Jürgen gets to see their line of code, that he's checking the integrity of the whole, and that he's trusted to do that. And again, it's just this working with great people, large brains, but very open minds and very large hearts as well.
That exemplifies something that I found as well, is that everything that doesn't bring me joy, there's someone else that is the thing that most brings them joy. And this is one of the best reasons to get really good at delegating, because if you hold on to all those things that don't bring you joy because you think you should, or you have a survival rule that says you must, or whatever the other reason is, you are explicitly preventing everyone else from getting the joy that they deserve in their life while you make yourself miserable. So we can make ourselves miserable by holding on to everything that we don't want and also make everyone else miserable because they don't get to do that. Or we can just let go of it, have fun ourselves, and then everyone else gets to have fun too.